Thank you, everyone, for joining. Today's session is going to be about, our perspective on how brands should be thinking about Amazon Marketing Cloud. I am Sreenath Reddy, one of the co-founders and CEO here at Intentwise. And I'm joined by Ryan, who will be just hosting this with me and handling logistics as we go along. Just quick note on logistics, we'll share out the recording. And along the way, if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box. I think and I've got quite a bit of content, so I'll try to address them, along the way as well, where I get the opportunity. A quick introduction about Intentwise. We are a software analytics platform. What we do is really bring together and connect all of the fragmented data sets the likes of Amazon and Walmart are sharing. And with that underlying foundation, we offer three solutions. One is Intentwise Ad Optimizer, which is all about optimizing your search and DSP spend, retail media spend, on Walmart, Amazon, Instacart, Criteo. The second solution is what we call Intentwise Analytics Cloud. Think of it as your automated, comprehensive, and a unified data store and pipeline for all your Amazon and e-commerce data. And the third solution, which kind of relates to today's topic, which is Intentwise Explore, it's a platform that sits on top of Amazon Marketing Cloud, and it's really designed to help you make the most out of AMC as quickly as possible. So those are the three solutions we offer. I'll touch on the last solution later in the presentation. But in terms of today's agenda, I'm going to walk you through the basics of what AMC is, touch on possible use cases. How do you get started? What are some of the challenges you run into? What is that path to success for brands? And like I said, either along the way or at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. Has anybody here not seen AMC before, as in logged into the console and actually seen what it looks like? Actually, Ryan just launched a poll, so please take a moment to answer that. I'd just be curious to see if... depending on the response, I'd love to just actually share the AMC console and actually show you what it looks like down somewhere in the presentation.
Yeah, it looks like everybody here has not seen the console before, Sreenath, so it would be cool to take a look. Okay,
good to know. We probably, I'll show you what AMC looks like in a moment. But just to put things in the context of what Amazon has been up to, here's a quick solution footprint of Amazon. On the left are their advertising products, sponsored ads, and DSP. On the right are all their measurement solutions. Amazon Marketing Cloud is kind of the crown jewel, the centerpiece of all their measurement. But the point I really want to make is if you dial back a couple of years, most of what you see on the right did not exist. But Amazon is making a real big push towards making measurement both comprehensive as well as easy for brands. I'm not going to go into the non-Amazon Marketing Cloud pieces, but to quickly touch on them, Amazon Marketing Stream is your real-time ads solution. Rapid Retail Analytics is your real-time sales, inventory, and traffic information being made available by Amazon. Selling Partner API is just the API that gives you access to both Seller Central and Vendor Central. It has gone through a huge transformation over the last 12, 18 months. And lastly, Amazon Attribution, which is a mechanism to measure the performance of Amazon traffic on Amazon. But here we are today. We're going to talk about Amazon Marketing Cloud. But let's walk through what Amazon Marketing Cloud is. And I'd like to do that, with an example of a shopper journey. So think about a shopper that, let's say, and each of those boxes are touch points of that shopper who's shopping on Amazon. Let's say they saw a DSP ad impression followed by an ad click. They engage with your sponsored product ads, click on it, sponsored display, click on it, perhaps add a product to a wish list, add it to a cart, and maybe sometime later purchase the product. So this could be a typical shopping journey. But today, in the absence of AMC, you have no idea that all these touches have happened or shopper has taken those actions. I've also labeled the left two touch points, the two touch points on the left-hand side as upper funnel. Yes, that's usually you deploying upper funnel marketing dollars through DSP. And then everything to the right is lower funnel. So in today's world, without AMC, there's some core challenges. One is there is really no bridge between your upper funnel performance metrics and lower funnel performance metrics. And number two, we live in this world of last click attribution, meaning that purchase is attributed to that last campaign that they clicked on. You have no idea that the shopper actually engaged with other campaigns. So there's that issue. And then lastly, you really don't have visibility into events like, shoppers adding things to your wish list or add to cart, so on and so forth. So now in this context, AMC solves a lot of these challenges. So what is AMC? Every one of those, what are called events or touch points at a shopper level, are being pushed into AMC and are being made accessible to you. And so now you can really connect that upper funnel and lower funnel marketing performance. You can come up with your own attribution models. You don't have to rely on last click. It fundamentally changes the game in terms of the types of questions you can answer. Also, more importantly, you could start to build groups of audiences that are so specific to you and use them to target in your DSP campaigns. So you can do things like show me all the shoppers that added a certain product to the cart but never bought, or show me all the shoppers that are buying from me but are not opted into subscribe and save. There's just so many things you could be doing, right? Yeah, so in essence, what is Amazon Marketing Cloud? Amazon Marketing Cloud is a secure, privacy-safe clean room. It's a clean room and privacy safe because you can't go in there and look at any one individual's shopping behavior, but you can build cohorts of users and audiences. Right? It contains media and sales data and events across all of Amazon's properties. What Amazon Marketing Cloud allows us to do is understand customer journeys at a much deeper level and also come up with custom audiences that you can target. And I'll get more specific around all of the different use cases that are possible. By the way, feel free to just drop in questions if you have any, but this would be a good time for me to kind of quickly show you what AMC actually looks like if you have never seen it. This is Amazon Marketing Cloud, right? There are a number of tables here. So for example, every click on DSP is tracked in the DSP clicks table. DSP impressions are here. So are sponsored ads, related events. And one thing I want to bring to your attention to is every one of these tables has a field called user ID. That is that unique identifier for a shopper. Again, you can't look at anyone's user ID, but that is a mechanism that allows you to join all the touch points, all the events, as you write queries against them. So here's DSP clicks. Again, you'll see a field called user ID right there. Right? So these are all the tables of data. There's a query editor. You write SQL to retrieve data from these tables. There's instructional queries, which are basically pre-built queries for you to just activate, right? So you don't have to start from scratch. There's also paid features where by default, AMC gives you all the advertising data. But if you want all your organic data, that is like all of the purchases made by shoppers that have never looked at an ad and things like that. So you want to get a fully comprehensive view. You can opt into what is called flexible Amazon Shopping Insights. There's a fee for it. It changes per brand, per instance, but that's also part of AMC. Yeah, so that's kind of a quick glance into AMC. If you have any questions, feel free to fire away. But hopefully that gives you a sense for what AMC is. But keep this in mind. You still need to write SQL, and you do need to understand all of the tables and the data that is captured within for you to be effective at this. We'll talk about challenges with using AMC in its current form and what are we doing about it later in the conversation. I'll get to that. But what I did want to do was dive into kind of very specific use cases. But let me close out this story at a higher level on AMC to say what makes AMC unique is this ability to tie user behavior across all the media types and ad types. And then that starts to open up a ton of possibilities that didn't exist before. I mean, here's an example. Like I can identify or define a cohort of users that saw DSP campaigns first and then sponsored ads to see what their performance looks like, or what does DSP alone do, what does sponsored ads alone do. That's just an example. But there's just a number of use cases that now become possible. You heard me use the word event. So here's a set of types of events that are captured within AMC. Of course, purchases, but additions to baby registry, gift list, wedding registry, shopping carts, viewing of a product detail page. These are all the types of events that are captured within AMC. It's not just, they're called conversion events, but conversion doesn't just mean purchase, but all other events are also captured. And I mentioned that these events are captured across lots of Amazon properties. So yes, so the basic ones, sponsored ads, sponsored display, sponsored brand, DSP, those are all known. But of course, Thursday night football, streaming TV, audio ads, all those also are getting tracked within AMC. Any questions so far? If not, let me dive into, okay, given all that, like how do we make sense out of it? How do we use this? How do we extract value from it? At Intentwise, we think about possible use cases in 5 broad buckets: audience discovery, incrementality, multi-touch, campaign optimization, customer insights. Going from left to right, just some brief descriptions, and I'll dive into very specific examples on each of these buckets. Audience discovery, perhaps the most actionable use case, which is the idea that you can build custom audiences based on whatever criteria you have in mind, and then use that to deploy your DSP spend, right? I'll give you very specific examples shortly. Incrementality, we all want to know what the incremental impact of our ad spend is. AMC allows us to get at that question in a few ways. I'll give you those examples shortly. Multi-touch analytics, this is like, we were talking about this earlier too, which is connecting upper funnel and lower funnel, understanding, last touch versus first touch versus multi-touch. All those get bundled under multi-touch analytics. Campaign optimization, there are some very specific things you could be looking at and making sure that your settings on campaigns, such as like frequency caps and things like that, are set the right way. And lastly, customer insights, that's more lifetime value, repeat purchase behavior, so on and so forth. So those are kind of the 5 broad buckets of use cases. I'll quickly walk you through some examples in each of these. Audience discovery, here's some just examples. We're obviously not limited to this. You're really limited to your thinking and exploration. But quick examples: constructing a pool of audiences that's has not opted in to subscribe and save, but have been buying your products, or audiences who have added certain very specific products to wish lists and gift lists, audiences that have been either overexposed or really underexposed to, let's say, your DSP campaigns, and you want to exclude them. By the way, when you create audiences, it's not just for inclusion, it's for exclusion also, right? And the last one, which is super interesting, if you look at your sponsored product ads, the CTRs, click-through rates, are probably 2 to 3% at best, right? So the other 97, 98% of people are just not clicking your ad, but they could be searching with very high intent, lower funnel keywords. So you could build audiences pools, so people who are exhibiting extremely high intent for your products using AMC, and then you can go after them in DSP. One quick note, audience pool limitation is you need to have, the pool needs to have more than 2,000 people for it to be valid. But yeah, just keep that in mind. But that's under audience discovery. Incrementality, the most basic use case, which is what are my new to brand metrics for sponsored product campaigns, AMC is the only place to get it. Because in your ad console today, you do not get new to brand metrics for sponsored products. There's another example in the bucket of incrementality is like what are the performance metrics for people that have been exposed to ads versus not exposed to ads. And there's just many ways you can get at this, but incrementality is kind of this big, broad bucket of use cases that you can benefit from using AMC. Multi-touch, of course, I think path to conversion, I think we've heard this before, but understanding by path, what are the performance metrics is now possible with AMC. You can even go ahead and come up with models that are not last touch. That can be, what does first touch attribution look like? Especially relevant when you have campaigns that have remarketing, that are remarketing. Today, remarketing campaign performance usually looks good, but we have no way of crediting that revenue or purchases to the originating campaign, right? But you can do that with AMC. Bucket number 5, campaign optimization. This is an example of, on the right is a table that just shows you by frequency of exposure, what is revenue that you've gotten. But you could use this data to understand what frequency caps you want to set on your DSP campaigns, right? You wouldn't have this data without AMC. But this is one of many examples of like very tactical campaign optimization steps you can take based on AMC data. And last but not least, customer insights. Like I said, what is the lifetime value for my customers? By the way, AMC can hold like a rolling 13 months of data. Another call out about AMC is if you get an AMC instance created, data starts to collect from 7 days prior to creation date. So if you're listening to me and you have DSP spend going on, you have sponsored ads, you do not have a AMC instance created, that is the first thing and the most important thing you should do when you're done listening to this conversation. And it doesn't cost you anything. And we can certainly help you get one created. What you need is a DSP CFID and a sponsored ads entity ID. You just need those two things and you can get an AMC instance created. Why is that important? Again, you want it collecting the data. You don't want to wait till you're ready to use and you'll only have 1 week's worth of data on day one. So repeat purchase behavior, understanding gateway ASINs that drive the most lifetime value. Those are all some ideas around customer insights. There's many more things you can do, but this is the 5th bucket of use cases that you can activate against AMC. Is there a question here? Not yet. Let me pause here for a moment, and before I go any further, happy to take questions. Any questions here from the audience?
Since it's Prime Day, Sreenath, maybe we could speak to one of the which of these use cases would maybe help with either preparing or analyzing your performance on Prime Day. Is there an AMC query that?
Yeah, I think the easiest one, honestly, is like, I know it's a little late now, but all those audiences that have been eyeing your products, usually conversion rates are not great the 2 to 3 days leading up to any sales event. But you can construct pools of audiences that are showing specific behaviors and then use those to target them on the day of the event using DSP. So that's the most obvious use case. The other one is just people exhibiting really low funnel intent in terms of keywords they're searching, but not clicking on your ads. That's another audience you could be creating.
So if you didn't create those audiences for today, make sure that you request your instance so you can do it for the Turkey 5, Black Friday, and Cyber Monday.
That's a great call out. We have got all this. You saw the AMC console. We've been talking about all the possibilities, but what gets in the way? What are some of the core challenges today that brands face? I'll kind of bucket them into 4. One, of course, is that you need SQL skills and an understanding of AMC data nuances, right? Obvious one. Second is that even when you know all that, when you run a query, you get a CSV output. If you're going to do this at scale, running lots and lots of queries, CSV outputs are not scalable, right? A third aspect is that even with AMC, you want to be able to commingle some of your data into the queries. So as an example, You may have a naming convention on your campaigns, and that naming conventions could stand for, let's say, sub-brands or categories of data. Managing that, there's just no good mechanism today. And lastly, you'll get to a place where you're running queries, but you want those outputs either piped into your data warehouse, or you want a reporting tool directly connecting to the output so you can build the views you want, right? So all these are some of the challenges today. And we'll talk about how we are addressing these shortly. But given all that, kind of, as brands, as you think about adopting AMC, if you're making plans for 2024, maybe some of you are, getting RFPs created. Here's kind of a few core tenets or essential things to keep in mind. Number one, I do not think AMC should be looked at just as a reporting tool. Yes, there's aspects of it that lend itself to regular reporting, especially certain use cases that you want to monitor on a regular basis. But a lot of it is exploration, especially audience discovery, right? Point number two, which is whatever path you're on, you will need a combination of having canned dashboards and also having the ability to quickly create custom queries and audiences. Third, the commingling of your custom metadata with AMC data is a need, right? Fourth, the ability to ingest AMC outputs into your reporting and data environment is going to be essential, especially if you want to get wider adoption in your organization. And then lastly, ongoing training, just because it is new and it is evolving, it is essential. But I'd say whatever plans you make, you have to account for these things to get the most out of AMC. In fact, I have a little laddered kind of point of view on progression that you can think about. Step one, if you don't already have an AMC instance, please go get that created, and certainly Intentwise can help with that if you don't have a pathway. That is the number one thing you should do. And getting AMC certified. I mean, we have a whole bunch of people at Intentwise that are AMC certified, but when we went through that process, the course Amazon has put out and the process is pretty valuable. I would absolutely go do that and encourage your team members to do that. And then, start to run some standard instructional queries, that are already available, just to kind of whet your appetite, understand how this works. So that would be step one. Step two is where you just need to start to get more strategic. Of all the use cases I talked about, what are some of those questions that could be valuable to you and lead you to make slightly different, better decisions? Just starting to frame those key questions, turning them into queries, getting them scheduled so that the outputs and the reports are automated. Also starting to experiment with custom audiences would be step two, right? And when you're fully scaled, you've got organization-wide adoption, and you're also taking a test and learn approach, and you really have a process nailed around this. And then you're also starting to integrate additional data sets like your first-party data to kind of activate many more use cases. So this is kind of a point of view in terms of how you can think about your progression. And then I'll say that everything Intentwise does is really designed to help you accelerate through this path. Okay, and you may be at step 2 today, or maybe you're already at step 3. No matter where you are, our goal is to help you accelerate this path for your brand. Let me see if there's any questions here.
Sreenath, there was one point of clarification on the previous slide. You'd mentioned uploading or commingling your custom metadata with AM. Can you give some examples for the audience in terms of what that metadata might be?
Yeah, two common things I've seen is one is you have your own sense of categories for your products, right? That show up in the outputs. And then the second is each of the campaigns and DSP orders, you name them a certain way, whether it is because you have your own categorization of, hey, this is awareness and this is remarketing, Whether it's that's the goal, or if you're a big brand with a lot of sub brands and you have naming convention that reflect these sub brands. I think those are the two examples, and there's many more, but those would be the two examples.
Makes sense. So being able to extract that information from AMC in the categorization that makes sense to your brand. So all of these different nuances and the way that you look at the business is what you need to upload and mix with your AMC data so the outputs make sense to you.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then, so again, so I want to just jump into how is Intentwise helping brands, with all of this, right? Just very quickly, there's three things we do around AMC. Number one is we have a technology platform that is really designed to accelerate your adoption of AMC and extracting outputs from AMC and so on and so forth. I'll deep dive into that in a moment. That's Intentwise Explore. Intentwise Analytics Services is really designed to help you craft those custom queries, get you those answers, author the SQLs, so on and so forth. So that's the services aspect of our business. And then we are constantly training folks on AMC. Even today's session is kind of a training session, but training you on AMC, training you on SQL. So those are kind of the three things we bring to the table to help you and your organization adopt AMC and just get the most out of it as quickly as possible. With that, I'm just going to take like 5 minutes to walk you through what Intentwise Explore does. But, I want to put this in the context of the challenges that I talked about earlier with AMC. So with Intentwise Explore, there's a number of things we can do. One, you have a query library. First of all, before I go to query library, if you have one or more instances, they can all be managed fairly easily right here. And if you are new, you don't have an instance, no problem. You come in here and say add instance and provide a couple of inputs and we'll take care of the rest. And then in terms of queries, right? So we have a fairly exhaustive query library. This whole thing is designed so that you don't have to write SQL, right? So there is a long list of predefined queries. If you don't have a query here that suits your needs, you can request custom queries. Just click on request custom query and move forward. And then let's just say that you want to activate the path to conversion query. The way it works is you say add to my queries. You give it a name, pick the frequency at which you want this to run, weekly, monthly, quarterly, pick the date ranges, pick the instances on which you want to activate this, and hit save, and you're done, right? The moment you do that, that request shows up in your My Queries queue, and against each request, you can kind of see, what is the date range, how frequently it runs, when is the next run, so on and so forth, right? So that's your My Query queue. The next question is, by the way, the audiences work the same way. The next question is, okay, what do you do with the outputs that are coming out? We give you three options. There's an Insights tab here that pretty much gives you all of the outputs. We have canned embedded dashboards. So let me walk you through a couple. So here is new to brand customers dashboard. Down below, you can see like new to brand metrics for sponsored products. I can, quickly look at my path to conversion, so here is path to conversion by different paths, all of the performance metrics. Let me try one more. DSP campaign performance by geo, performance metrics by each of the geos for your DSP campaigns. So there's just a long list of predefined canned dashboards that you can be up and running very, very quickly within a matter of days. So that's one form of consumption of outputs. Now, you might say, look, I'm a scale organization. I want all the outputs of the queries to be flowing into my data warehouse, whether that's a Snowflake or a Redshift or whatever you might have. No problem. You can fully automate that process. So, you can come into Intentwise and basically choose a destination. The destination can be a data warehouse or a reporting tool. It doesn't matter. Power BI, Tableau, what have you. But you can choose and activate a destination. And so all of the AMC outputs get fed into that destination, whether that's a reporting tool or a data warehouse. And then the last thing I want to touch on is we talked about commingling data. Sorry about that. Let me switch back to Intentwise Explore. Actually, before I talk about data enrichment, let's just assume that you don't want to rely on our CAN dashboards and you want to build your own. No problem. We have predefined templates for a number of reporting tools for all kinds of use cases that you can activate and be up and running just a whole lot faster, right? So here's a path to conversion template, right? So you could embed this in Power BI, Tableau, what have you, just very quickly and modify them whichever way you want, right? And also just one other thing, in these CAN dashboards that I was showing you, let's just say that, you look at one of these dashboards and say, hey, Sreenath, I want a couple more metrics here than what it's showing me. We can make those adjustments for you within these embedded dashboards as well. And then lastly, we talked about data enrichment. So I'll give you one example. If you're a brand with a lot of sub-brands within, and you are following a naming convention to separate outputs into sub-brands, you can specify that here by saying, hey, here's 5, 10 different sub-brands, and each one has a criteria of naming. All you have to do is specify this once, and all of your outputs will have sub-brand classification baked in. In fact, I don't know if you realize, but in the Insights tab, you were seeing a sub-brand filter everywhere. That filter is coming from your definition of sub-brands from within your account. So sub-brands, product categorizations, labels, there's just a number of things you can do to enrich the data further above and beyond what AMC produces natively. So just to summarize what Intentwise Explorer is doing, you've got an exhaustive library of queries that you can choose from, schedule them, set the frequency, consume them through built-in dashboards, or pipeline the outputs into your data store or reporting tool, whichever way you want to consume it, right? And then also enrich the data as needed to make the end outcomes much richer. And all of this, again, is designed to help you make the most out of AMC as quickly as possible, right? Now, whether you, the brand, wants to own the AMC instance and have, wants to do analytics internally, or you're working with an agency and you want the agency to be doing this, so that's a conversation you can have. We work with a number of agencies as well. But yeah, so in summary, Intentwise Explore, like I said, automated scheduling, custom creation of audiences and queries, robust visualizations and data pipelines. So that's what Explore has to offer. And on the custom analytics services side, where you are looking for things that the standard library doesn't support or the instructional queries don't support, we have a team that can author things for you and activate for you. And I've got a bunch of examples that we have done even within the last 2 to 3 weeks. The letter Q indicates that it's a query. The letter A indicates that it's an audience. But these are all examples of queries and audiences we have built for our clients as custom work. Yeah, so with that, I want to conclude by saying, look, AMC offers tremendous opportunity. It's a privacy-safe, clean room with events across media and retail that are tracked within. It helps us do, broadly speaking, 2 things well: understand customer journeys and define custom audiences. I would think about it more than just a reporting tool. It is an exploration tool. Like we have already stressed on this before in the presentation, just make sure that you get your instances created ASAP. There's no reason to wait, honestly. And in terms of leveling up your team skills, I would focus on that AMC certification and certainly have at least some members of the team get acquainted with SQL so you know what's going on, with a certain query. So those are kind of the 2 skills I would focus on. Ryan, if you don't mind, just share the link to Amazon's certification as well. like I said before, they've put together a pretty solid course and a certification program. Yeah, I think with that, that ends my presentation for today, and I'm happy to take questions. My contact is right there, Sreenath@intentwise.com. If you want to schedule time with us, Ryan, please drop the demo link into the chat. You can do it that way. Yeah, and I'm happy to take questions at this point.
Awesome. Sreenath, you talked a lot about what brands should do. Do you have any words of caution or words of warning in terms of things to look out for as they start to get involved with AMC?
Yeah, good question. I think the first trap is like, everyone wants to look at like, okay, what are my spend numbers and revenue numbers in AMC? Does it tally with ad console, right? That's kind of the first thing they do. Just one thing to note is that there are real reasons why there are differences. And you will see 5 to 7% difference in, let's say, revenue metrics because of like how attributions work and the time frames you're looking at. So I wouldn't aim for extreme precision compared to ad console metrics when you're looking at AMC data.
That's a good call out. That could stop people in their tracks if they're seeing discrepancies there. So
yeah,
it's normal to see discrepancies of 5 to 7%, much more than that, and maybe you did something wrong.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would say is that it's a little bit technical, but one thing to keep in mind is it is a clean room, right? So when you run queries based on what level of aggregation you're doing, if it's too granular, you get blank data because Amazon doesn't want to expose data at that granular level coming out of AMC. So there's a phrase called aggregation thresholds. It is important to understand that. So you understand why sometimes you get blank rows of data coming up, right? So there's that.
They cover that topic in the AMC certification pretty well, right? And all the different examples of what those aggregation thresholds are, because it's different based on what you're querying.
That's exactly right.
Great. Well, if there's no other questions from the audience, I think we can go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you to everybody who attended. If you found this session informative, please share the recording with anybody else in your organization or somebody else that wasn't able to attend. We will have the recording as well as the slides sent out early next week for you to review. So feel free to share it. And if you have any other follow-up questions for Sreenath on AMC, feel free to reach out or connect with him on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign off.